Oh, Mrs. Garcia, how do you balance it all? You're a school counselor and new homeowner, a mother of two, and grad student. You're an Ander. At National University, we see the whole you. That's why we're dedicated to your professional growth through faculty mentorships and career support, so you can focus on what matters most. National University, supporting the whole you. Learn more at nu.edu.
This is VSiN PrimeTime. Live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We're off and running on a Thursday evening alongside Scott Seidenberg. I'm Tim Murray, live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas. What a busy night we have ahead for you, as we've got not one, not two, 4 games on the ice. One game about to get going north of the border here momentarily. Coming up bottom of the hour, the Detroit Pistons trying to force a Game 7 against the New York Knicks, as they are a 1.5-point favorite. And then tonight, JVT's beloved Los Angeles Clippers laying the 6 against the Denver Nuggets, as they also try to force a Game 7. Mr. Seidenberg, I'm fired up for tonight. A lot of day baseball. I didn't give it out to the syndicate, but I told the people that Paul Skeens would give up 3 home runs. They just didn't want to listen to me, that he would give up 3 home runs in one inning. But
yeah, that was a tough loss as someone who is primarily a Paul Skeens first 5 backer. And when the Pirates went into the top of the 5th inning with a 2-0 lead over the Cubs, I figured another day, another Paul Skeens first 5 win for us. And then the 3 runs in the top of the 5th inning as the Pirates went into the 6th inning, down 3-2, and you lose the first 5 bet on Paul Skeens. Not a good day in baseball for a couple of other teams. That, the Rays looking to avoid a sweep at home, unable to do so against the Royals. The Mets, you would think, maybe avenge a home loss. They had been the best home team in baseball the entire season, 12-1 before losing yesterday at home. They lose back-to-back home games, falling to the Diamondbacks earlier today. So, yeah, fun game, but I'll tell you what also hit. The under in Texas, the greatest under in all of Major League Baseball. Tim, just blindly play it. Unders in Texas. The Rangers.
The whole state, or just the Texas Rangers?
Just the Texas Rangers. The best under team in baseball at home this year. Cashes again, 3-0 A's win.
All right, a couple baseball games we'll certainly keep our eyes on as the Colorado Rockies and San Francisco Giants play later on tonight. The Rockies, a nice little plus 238 dog if you are adventurous enough to take on.
No chance they win 2 in a row, right?
No.
They've won 5 games all year. They're not going to win back-to-back games, right?
One more, you know what that would mean? It would be a winning streak.
It has happened before.
I don't know with the Rockies, though. Coming up in just a little bit, we got the Toronto Blue Jays and the Red Sox, and then Detroit taking on the Los Angeles Angels. So plenty of baseball to keep our eyes on. We got the TVs all ready to go, but we got lots of games here. And I'll start with this one. It's not our VSiN Primetime game of the night, but I did take a little nibble on the Toronto Maple Leafs. So took a little plus money on the Maple Leafs. It was plus 104 here at Circa just a moment ago, as they are trying to wrap things up against the Ottawa Senators. And, betting on the Toronto Maple Leafs wrapping things up in recent history of the postseason, not the most fun endeavor, but I will ride with Austin Matthews and company here. Give me Toronto. It's small. Yeah. Let's keep the show interesting here, because I dabbled in hockey yesterday, Scott. I convinced my ginger brother Will Hill to go first period under with the Capitals. It did not work out well. Alex Ovechkin did me wrong, so we're gonna go small. We're gonna dip our toe in, but let's get the juices flowing here north of the border. Give me the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, I took Toronto as well. This isn't my best bet of the night. That's coming up later on the ice. But I did take Toronto. The fact that they lost the last 2 games, it's not like it's surprising, and 3-0 comebacks have happened in the NHL multiple times. Teams have forced a Game 7, and yes, we've had teams that have won Game 7. So if there is a sport where you're thinking a 3-0 deficit is not the death knell, it is the Stanley Cup playoffs. That being said, Toronto's the better team. They outmatch Ottawa in every facet of the game, including shots on goal, the Corsi Fenwick percentage, which measures basically your possession in any given game in a 5v5 situation. Toronto outclasses Ottawa. And yeah, Ottawa is surging right now. They got back-to-back wins. And I don't care that Toronto's on the road. They've been an incredible road team this entire season. I expect Austin Matthews and company to regroup and get the job done tonight.
Yeah, right now, looking across the market, if you are looking to join the party, minus 102 at Circa, minus 101 the price at the Westgate Superbook. So essentially a pick 'em between the Senators and the Maple Leafs. So a little bit of late money coming in on the Maple Leafs with puck drop here in just a little bit. Bottom of the hour, Vegas and the Minnesota Wild. Upstairs, they will be having a watch party at Stadium Swim.
So, if I leave for a while and don't come back, you know exactly where I am.
Yeah, you'll be hanging out. Derek Stevens and company will be up there. So no Derek tonight, as he'll be up there enjoying the game, watching it with the watch party. But the Vegas Golden Knights able to get that victory in overtime on Tuesday night. Hell of a goal to get that victory here in our neck of the woods. And now, significant favorite on the road are the Vegas Golden Knights to try to wrap things up there in the Twin Cities.
I think they get the job done. I really do. Now, Vegas was my pick before this series started. I obviously got very nervous when it was a 2-2 series, and I was extremely nervous when Minnesota appeared to get the game winner last night. However, upon review, it was determined that it was slightly offsides. The game then skates into overtime, where Brett Howden, as you mentioned, had that one-timer past our beloved Marc-Andre Fleury. It was nice to see him get some action last night.
He was playing well,
2 nights
man.
ago.
You know, I mean, he was doing all right in the third period there. I thought he was moving well.
Congratulations. But Gustafsson is back in net tonight for the Wild, and I think Vegas rides this momentum. They have not really put together a complete game yet in this series. Tonight might be the night where from start to finish, they're the better team. And I think that Minnesota, everyone said it this entire series, and I have to admit it as well. This is not the team that we saw for the majority of this season. This is a full-strength Minnesota Wild team with Kirill Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson-Ek back in the lineup. This is the team that started the first 25 games of the year with the best record in the NHL. So we do have to kind of upgrade them and maybe, have the odds come back down to earth a little bit, and we shouldn't have favored Vegas as much as we did prior to this series. But that being said, Vegas is still the better team. In every metric, they're the better team. I think they ride the momentum and finish it out here on the road.
Also, bottom of the hour, your New York Knickerbockers up 3-2 on the road. I had a buddy of mine. It's funny when you think about our friends, and I don't know if all your friends are bettors. I would say majority of our friends are bettors, but you got a couple of stragglers who don't dip into the dark arts like we do. And my buddy, who's a Knicks fan, he goes, I think the Knicks might lose tonight. I go, well, they are the underdogs. So, I mean, wouldn't be crazy if they did lose tonight. But the Pistons, a slight favorite at home. I've been impressed by what we've seen from the Detroit Pistons. Do they force a Game 7 here tonight? This thing in in Little Caesars Arena, 1.5-point favorite are the Detroit Pistons here against the New York Knicks.
I honestly have no idea, Tim, because...
Perfect, by the way, I'll say this, as we like to promote live betting, and I know you have enjoyed it quite a bit during the NBA playoffs. Look, a point spread like this, I know we all want pregame action. There's really no reason to bet this thing from a pre-flop standpoint.
Well, the one thing we can bet, and this is one of my best bets for tonight, is the under.
Ooh,
I'm taking the under. Now, this total opened up at 213. It got bet up to as high as 214.5 to 215, which made no sense to me because every respected bettor I spoke to was on the under. And what did we see? I grabbed it as soon as I saw 214.5. And what have we seen? It come back down. Here at Circa, it's at 213.5. There still is a rogue 214.5. If you're able to bet on DraftKings, get that right now. This game is going under. Historically, in the NBA playoffs, Game 6s, if we're just going back since 2002, 57% unders in Game 6s in the NBA playoffs. That's a 183-game sample, and we're at 57% to the under. And then the Knicks in this game, I fear that Jalen Brunson is run down. I don't trust Karl Anthony Towns to be the focal point of this offense. In fact, on a player prop perspective, I might go Brunson under. And I just think this has to be the type of game, in order for the Knicks to win, it has to be that Tom Thibodeau, muck it up, ugly type of defensive game, which we had seen in these playoffs from the New York Knicks before. That's how they're going to win this game. And then if you even go even further, When Game 5 goes under, Game 6 is going under at 60%. So I'm riding the under. This has been an under series. This will continue to be an under series with an under game tonight. I don't know if the Knicks close it out here. I don't know if the Pistons force a Game 7, but I do trust that points will be hard to come by in what I expect to be an ugly game in Detroit.
Unders 3-2 in this series. In the last two games, as you pointed out, both have gone under. The Pistons win at MSG earlier this week, 106-103, and then the win the win by the Knicks, 94-93 over the weekend. So we've got two games on the hardwood. First up, it's Knicks and Pistons, and then it's our VSiN Primetime game of the night.
The lights are on and the stakes are high. It's the primetime game of the night.
All right, Scott, I'm not happy, and I know JVT's going to join us later on in the show, so he'll say, cry me a river. He's been dealing with this his whole life as a Clipper fan. It's a franchise that is just massively underachieved every time they're in the postseason. They should have wrapped this thing up by now, and oh, by the way, now they're on the brink of elimination. So they're back at home, Intuit Dome, excuse me. They're laying 6 here against the Denver Nuggets. Denver, Jamal Murray, no relation, was phenomenal in Game 5 to get him this 3-2 series lead. Do the Clippers even this thing up? Do we get a Game 7 over the weekend in Denver?
Yes, we do. Clippers are one of my best bets here on the night. I love them to get the job done at home. You mentioned the Intuit Dome. The wall, Tim.
The wall, baby.
The wall has proven to be a factor here in this series. I think the Clippers jump out to an early lead, a fast start in this game that will propel them to a full game victory and a full game cover. Denver's not going to get that type of performance from Jamal Murray again. That was an outlier type of performance. Meanwhile, the biggest factor that we've all been talking about and the reason why we love the Clippers, not just in this series, but in these playoffs, is that Kawhi Leonard looks fantastic, looks healthy, looks great. We get another big effort from Kawhi tonight in a Clipper win.
Come on, James Harden. You had your crappy performance out of the way, okay? Let's wake back up here tonight. That's Scott. I'm Tim. We're just up and running. It is VSiN Primetime.
Oh, Mrs. Garcia, how do you balance it all? You're a school counselor and new homeowner, a mother of 2, and grad student. You're an Ander. At National University, we see the whole you. That's why we're dedicated to your professional growth through faculty mentorships and career support, so you can focus on what matters most. National University, supporting the whole you. Learn more at nu.edu.
This is VSiN Primetime on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We are underway in Ottawa, the Maple Leafs and Senators. Just a couple minutes in, no score between the Maple Leafs and Senators. A true pick'em right now, and actually as we look at it, the Maple Leafs have moved to a slight favorite at -120 at DraftKings. That's Scott Seidenberg. I'm Tim Murray. Both Scott and I on the Maple Leafs here at a little plus money. A little plus 104 was the number at Circa right before puck drop. So, last night I convinced Will Hill to do something that did not come home for him. I was very sad about that. So I'm going to take your advice, and we're going to go under 214.5 on Pistons and Knicks. So that is, I'm going to roll with you there. That game's starting here in just a little bit. Of course, the Kentucky Derby, Scott, will start on Saturday. All busy weekend down there at Churchill Downs, the Kentucky Oaks, and then races all day Friday, Saturday, the Oaks on Friday, and the Derby on the Oaks on Friday and the Derby on Saturday. We will talk to Ed DeRosa coming up at the bottom of the hour. We'll get his analysis on the Kentucky Derby, who we should be firing on come this weekend at Churchill Downs. But still a lot to get to here tonight. Speaking of which, let's get to our guests for you. As mentioned, Ed DeRosa going to help us handicap the Kentucky Derby, bottom of the hour, hour 2, Jonathan Von Tobel. He will jump on the program as we will get his thoughts on his beloved Clippers, as well as maybe look ahead a little bit to what we could potentially see in that Pacers and Cavaliers series. I did add a bet last night on that series. Haven't checked the price and see if it has moved at all, but it is there. And then Ian Cameron to break down the 2 final games on the ice tonight. He'll join us at 9:15 Eastern. So a busy night ahead, Mr. Seidenberg. But still to come, as mentioned, bottom of the hour, we've got the Knicks and the Detroit Pistons. And we'll talk more about this as that game transpires, and we'll look for some in-game angles. But the Boston Celtics right now sitting back and looking ahead. I'm curious your thoughts projecting ahead. There's part of me that wants the Knicks to win this series because I want a cheap price. Not cheap, but a cheaper price. I think the Celtics might smoke them, man. There's something off with this Knicks team. I'm not saying sweep or anything like that, but maybe minus 2.5 games. I have something, and you mentioned about Brunson. There's something to miss with this Knicks team right now.
Well, no one plays their starters more than Tom Thibodeau and the New York Knicks. And we know that. More minutes than anybody this season. And so when I say I believe this team is worn down, it is worn down. We've seen Jalen Brunson go down hobbled in multiple games. In the early parts of this series, when he had to go to the locker room at Madison Square Garden, they like to say the nice things about going for a retape job or whatnot. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a certain needle that's going into that ankle or something, a numbing agent, if you will, just to get him through this game. And as a Knicks fan, I fear that it's the same thing that we saw in previous postseason when, the Knicks have a chance. I don't want to say maybe, they're live against the Celtics.
Sure.
But Jalen Brunson goes down, the whole series is done. Like, he is the entire Knicks offense. And whether you like it or you don't, sometimes I don't like it. I think that there's no creativity from Tom Thibodeau, especially coming out of a timeout. It seems to be a lot of iso ball with Jalen Brunson. And when he's the clutch player of the year and he makes the majority of those fadeaway shots, you're going to accept it. But I'd like to see some ball movement. I'd like to see some plays being run besides 4 guys spreading out and letting Jalen Brunson go one-on-one. If he's not 100%, which I don't believe he is, even if the Knicks finish this series off, they're not going to be a threat to the Boston Celtics. So, yeah, I think you're right to lay, maybe get a plus money price on a sweep or to finish in 5.
Yeah, curious, and if the Knicks win tonight, we'll get you those series prices. DraftKings certainly gets them out quick. Other folks will follow quickly as well. But right now, take a look at the betting splits. And look, you always love to put the trophy up on the mantle of the CLV because, as we've talked about it, DraftKings has gone from 214.5 down to 213. We've seen that late under money come in here. 62% of bets over at VSiN.com on our betting splits, Scott, are on the over. But surprise, surprise, money, split 50-50 both ways. And as for side in this one, it seems pretty split amongst the betting public. 55% of bets at DraftKings on the Knicks plus the points. 64% of bets, though, on the money line on the Knicks. So it does seem like there is a slight lean towards the New York Knicks to win this game based off of the betting public over at VSiN.com, courtesy of our betting splits there.
Well, there is a stat that if you just look at, let's see, when does this go back to? If since 2021, when the road team has a 3-2 lead in the series, in the first round of the NBA playoffs, that road team 8-1, both straight up and against the spread. So that will be good for the Knicks, bad for my Clippers bet. But those are the numbers since 2021. Again, 8-1, both straight up and ATS for the road teams in the first round of the NBA playoffs with a 3-2 series lead.
Coming up bottom of the hour, we'll talk a little Kentucky Derby. Ed DeRosa is going to help us break down the fastest 2 minutes, the most exciting 2 minutes in all of sports. You dabble in the horses, the ponies?
I used to do it a lot when the Belmont came around.
Sure.
Because being from New York and having worked in the New York media, I used to go to the Belmont all the time, and we used to do live broadcasts from the Belmont. It was a fun event to cover, and especially when you had a horse that was Triple Crown eligible.
Oh, yeah.
Because then you get...
The juice is there, yeah.
Then you get 120,000 people there at Belmont to witness a Triple Crown. So that's when I start to get into it. There's a lot smarter people than me when it comes to horse betting. I don't know anything except for what they tell me, and so I'll just bet what the smart handicappers tell me to bet.
And I think that's, I always joke about like the UFC, for example. There's so many smart people out there that we have at VSiN. Obviously, we've got Mike Somich, we've got Patrick Maher, we've got Adam Burke, we've got our Kentucky Derby betting guide, and we've had great guests filtering in and out all throughout the week. We had the Bear on yesterday, we had Brittany Urton on yesterday, and then Ed DeRosa coming up. So I'm with you, man. You got to find a couple of horses, listen to the smart people. All right, that's what I like to bet, and we'll do that here coming up bottom of the hour.
What I do like to do is if there's a horse that from reading everything, from listening to people, that is the consensus winner, I like to take that horse and then throw in a bunch of exactas with a number of different horses to finish second. And this way, if that horse does win, depending on who finishes second, maybe you maximize your payout if it winds up being a long shot to come in second place.
All right, let's get you updated on where we sit, as looks like the Ottawa Senators are about to go on the power play. So not great for our early bet here as a penalty on the Toronto Maple Leafs. So taking a look at the in-game on Maple Leafs and Senators. The Senators have now moved out to a $1.25 favorite as they head on the 2-minute power play with 12:12 to go in the first period.
Now, there's a bet to be made right now, Tim.
All right, hit us.
And it is the over 4.5. Now, it's heavily juiced around minus 180 to minus 188 on DraftKings right now.
Yep.
The reason why we love the over 4.5 right now, first off, yes, we can get a goal on this power play. It could happen, and it could be 1-0. All of a sudden, this total shoots up to 5.5. But we have seen time and time again in these Stanley Cup playoffs, even if there is a scoreless first period, the over is still in play. And one of my favorite games to play an over in is an elimination game. Because let's say Toronto does have a lead in the final 3 to 4 to 5 minutes in this game. It doesn't matter if it's a 1-goal lead, 2-goal lead, or 3-goal lead. The Ottawa Senators will pull the goaltender for an extended period of time. And let's say it's a 1-goal lead that they pull the goalie, it becomes a 2-goal lead. Guess what? The goalie's coming out again because it's an elimination game. Who cares if you lose by 1, 2, 3, or 4? Your season's over. So you're never going to give up here unless it's like it's a 5-1 game or a 6-1 game. You might just say, all right, we'll dump the puck in. Let's go shake hands. But if it's within any type of reach at the end of the game, you're getting multiple empty netters. So a couple of things I like to do, live totals, and I like to do alt spreads. So if you see a puck line on the team that's winning, in the case of Toronto going to eliminate Ottawa, let's say it's Toronto minus 1.5 or minus 2.5, I'll go minus like 3.5. Just to see, because again, you can get multiple empty net goals. I mean, we've seen games that are 2-2 with 5 minutes left in the third become 5-2 finishes.
Multiple times this postseason,
yes.
we've seen that, no doubt about it. We saw it, I think, in Game 4 of the Caps Canadiens series. We saw a bunch of late empty netters there from Washington. So scoreless right now, 10 minutes to go in the first period. Ottawa on the power play, but it looks like Toronto should kill this PP, and that the money line has shifted back to a pick'em. And to your point, let's keep an eye there on that in-game total. Right now, 4.5, still juiced over. Maybe we could see that trickle down a little bit, and we jump in on that there. So we will keep our eyes on that. Still coming up bottom of the hour, VGK and the Minnesota Wild, as well as the Pistons and the New York Knicks. Both Scott and I on the under in that one, 214.5. Hey, folks, we're ready to go all in on a ton of action tonight. How about this package they've got going over at Circa? $400 all in. 2-night stay at Circa, 100% dining credit, 100% beverage credit, and your very own day bed at Stadium Swim, all for just $400. Resort fees and taxes included. This is a limited time offer. Valid stays are between May 26th and September 4th. So don't miss out. Lock in your all-in summer package now. Head on over to circalasvegas.com. That's Scott Seidenberg. I'm Tim Murray. We're live from the Circa Sportsbook in downtown Vegas, getting you ready for the Derby next with Ed DeRosa. It is VSiN PrimeTime.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We keep it rolling here on a busy Thursday. It is VSiN PrimeTime. Before we head to our progressive guest line alongside Scott Seidenberg, I'm Tim Murray. A reminder that smarter bets start here and last all year long with VSiN Pro. How about this offer we're throwing out there? For a limited time, we're slashing the price on our annual subscription, normally $240. Scott Seidenberg said, let's make it $199. I said, I agree, Scott. Great idea. And when you sign up today, we'll throw in an extra 2 months for free. So that's 14 months right there. We're talking about our NFL betting guide, our college football betting guide, NHL, NBA. We're getting it all in there for 14 months. Use this promo code PRO. Get 14 months of access for $199. VSiN.com/subscribe. And if you sign up today, guess what? You get access to that Kentucky Derby guide. So once again, speaking of which, the most exciting 2 minutes in all of sports takes place on Saturday, the 151st running of the Kentucky Derby. And we head down to the lovely state of Kentucky right now to bring in Ed DeRosa, who will help us break it down. You can follow Ed on Twitter at EJXD2. Ed, let's start with the morning line favorite, Journalism. Odds have bounced around a little bit. What do you like about this horse, and should you be having this horse in all of your boxes, or maybe you looking to go against Journalism today?
No, I'm with him. I think he is a worthy favorite. And more importantly, I think he's a favorite who actually offers a little bit of value at the expected 5-2 or 3-1 price. He's won 3 graded stakes in a row, and his race 2 back, the San Felipe Stakes, I think was the best performance by a 3-year-old so far this year. Took a little step back last time, but that's expected after the best performance of the year. And he just seems primed for a top performance on Saturday in Louisville. So for me, Journalism, not only a worthy favorite, but more importantly for bettors, actually offering some value at 5-2 or 3-1.
Ed, I know a lot of amateur meteorologists are monitoring the Doppler radar as we approach Saturday, because there is a chance of thunderstorms in the morning, and we are seeing some showers in the forecast for Saturday. If we do get a wet track, if it does rain earlier in the day or even during the race, how is that going to affect your handicap?
Well, the good thing about Churchill is it does dry extremely fast. So rain in the morning would really mean nothing in terms of the Derby come 7 p.m. Eastern. Now, if we're talking about a wet track for the race itself, that does change things a little bit. One of the main talking points over the last week has been the pace in the Kentucky Derby. That's definitely expected for it to be a fast pace. Normally that benefits closers. In this big of a field, when you're dealing with a sloppy track, I think that has an opportunity to hinder some closers. They're going to be taking a lot of mud, or if they want to stay clean, they have to go wide, which means losing ground. So my big thing, if it rains, would be I'd want some horses closer to the pace. Journalism fits that bill, so it wouldn't bother me much if it rains in terms of his chances. And Baeza, who drew in because Rodriguez scratched, I think is an upgrade as well if it's a wet track, because he likes to be close.
Ed DeRosa joining us courtesy of our Progressive Guest Line, getting us ready for the 151st running of the Kentucky Derby on Saturday afternoon. You know, as Scott and I have joked, you know, we are very amateur horse racing bettors, but we like to listen to smart people. But you see these trends, Ed, and you're like, all right, what does this mean? So let's go to the 17 posts. There's 2 things, right? No horse has ever won from the 17 posts in Kentucky Derby history. But you've got Sandman, who's the Arkansas Derby winner. So what do we make of the Arkansas Derby winner? Is there correlation to winning that and then winning the Derby on Saturday? And then the voodoo of the 17 post, what do you make of Sandman?
Sure. Well, I'll say, first of all, that because Rodriguez scratched, Sandman is now in the 16 post.
Oh, okay.
And Sovereignty moves into the dreaded 17. But I am glad, regardless, I'm glad you mentioned Sandman, because he is actually the horse I anticipate to take money that I'm against. Currently, he's the second choice at 5-1. Pools are open for the Derby, so there is about $1 million that has been bet already. So we have some sense of the odds. He's the second choice at 5-1, and he's the horse I'm trying to beat out of the mix. I thought his Arkansas Derby was really dressed up. There was a really heavy speed duel in there, just the type of race that Sandman's supposed to win, and he did, so no knock on that. But he kind of zigged and zagged down the stretch. I don't think much of the horses behind him. I don't like Publisher or Coal Battle all that much at all. They were second and third in there. So for me, Sandman is a complete fade from all wagering propositions.
Looking at this field, Ed, is there a horse that stands out to you as a true Triple Crown contender should they win this Derby on Saturday?
I'd say the absolute only horse would be Journalism, just because he's, won 3 in a row and he's done it well. But I think we're looking at an era where we might have a drought for a while. I hate to bang the 2 weeks turnaround drum, sort of what the Triple Crown's all about for the most part. But with the way training is now versus, even 10 years ago when American Pharoah won it, 7 years ago when Justify won it, things are different. I think it's super hard to have to come back in 2 weeks. Only the Derby winner does it anymore. Everyone else skips for the Belmont. So that makes it super tough when you have to face fresh horses in all 3 races.
Once again, Ed DeRosa helping us handicap the Kentucky Derby, which will be run, of course, on Saturday. Our Kentucky Derby guide out now over at VSiN.com if you are a VSiN Pro subscriber. Ed, I do want to go to the latest horse, as you alluded to, Rodriguez being scratched, one of Bob Baffer's horses, one of his 2 horses expected to be in the field. What do you make of Beza? Because I heard a couple of folks talking this week saying if he were to get into the field, he could be intriguing. So what do you make of Beza getting in and being in that 20 post?
Yeah, he's definitely a must-use for me. I think, even in part, just sort of, game theory perspective, being 21 and also eligible is going to get ignored. Like when Rich Strike won as the 21, he was 80-1. Now he's deserved to be a long shot, but he wasn't even on the shirt that they printed at Churchill Downs with the field. And I don't know if Baeza is going to be on it this year, but just thought that was kind of interesting. So even from that perspective, I think he's going to be have higher odds than he should. But he absolutely fits with this group. He ran a gangbuster second behind Journalism in the Santa Anita Derby, and you know how much I like Journalism already. I'm willing to bet him as a favorite. So Baeza absolutely in the mix for me. That was a really good race behind favorite.
You mentioned American Pharoah earlier when we talked about the Triple Crown winner as well. He's got a son in this race in Luxor Cafe. I know a lot of handicappers like to look at the sires and handicap based on the lineage here. So is Luxor Cafe a candidate here that could maybe come through with a win, place, or show?
Yeah, sort of mid-pack. I wouldn't, say he's one of my favorites, but would by no means be a surprise. His races in Japan really look good. He ran very well. It's, hard to know exactly the competition over there. They time the races a little differently in terms of fractions and stuff. So you kind of only have visuals to go on, and he certainly looks the part. My concern, guys, is talent with Luxor Cafe. It's a ship.
All right. We will see if we can reconnect there with Ed, as his connection was getting a little fuzzy there, but some really good stuff there from him. And, once again, worth noting, Rodriguez scratched. So it was funny. I was listening to our friend Chris Felica, his podcast, and he alluded to if Baeza got in, and Ed even corroborated on that, was just you got to throw him in. So that'll be interesting to see as the 21 horse, maybe one to take a long shot on. I know you like some long shots. Throw a little.
We love long shots. Like I might just take Journalism and, like I said, just exacta with a whole bunch of long shots here in this field. We mentioned Luxor Cafe, who was sired by American Pharoah, and Ed was saying about his races in Japan. Yeah, hasn't raced in North America yet. That's what I've been reading.
Yep.
So
who knows? Good stuff there from Ed DeRosa. We appreciate him, and I know it's busy down there, so we appreciate him jumping on and some really good insight there. Follow Ed on Twitter at EJXD2 and read his work over at Horse Nation Racing. All right, quick updates on where we sit across the NBA and NHL as just underway in the Motor City. It is a 4-2 lead right now for the New York Knicks, if I read that correctly. As soon as I said, hey, let's get an update, they took down the score. But it is 5-4. The Knicks have the lead, so a early flip of favorites there. And as we talked about, betting this game with such a short spread, you were going to see these odds shift. And right now at 5-4, it was Knicks favored. Now it's back to Pistons being a slight favorite. Total 215.5. We're cooked.
Oh, we're done.
We're screwed,
we're done.
Scott.
We're done.
You can't believe you convinced me to take the under.
We're
and
smoked.
already, it's back to 214.5.
Okay, all right, we're good. We're good.
We're
Everyone,
okay.
we're good.
We're okay.
We're good.
So there you go. 5-4 is the score there. Obviously, we'll keep our eyes on that. What in-game angles we can look to bet. Still scoreless between the Leafs and Senators. And right now, that total that you were curious about, you can get plus money on the over. Over 4.5.
Do it.
Maybe do we see a 3.5 at some point? Do we get greedy?
You won't see it unless it goes the first 10 minutes or so of the second period without a goal. But what I do like also, if this is a scoreless first period, over 1.5 goals scored in the second period.
All right, we will see if we get there. Only 2 minutes to go in Ottawa. Scoreless between the Maple Leafs and Senators. That's Scott Seidenberg. I'm Tim Murray. Ooh, baby, it's going to be a fun night. Already 2 games underway on the ice. We got a game going on the hardwood as well. It's VSiN PrimeTime.
Oh, Mrs. Garcia, how do you balance it all? You're a school counselor and new homeowner, a mother of 2, and grad student. You're an ander. At National University, we see the whole you. That's why we're dedicated to your professional growth through faculty mentorships and career support, so you can focus on what matters most. National University, supporting the whole you. Learn more at nu.edu.
This is VSiN Primetime on VSiN, the sports betting network.
That's why you listen to Scott Seidenberg, because as we go to break, the Toronto Maple Leafs strike first. Austin Matthews on the power play, his second goal of the series. The Leafs go into the first intermission up 1-0. Both you and I have a little Leafs in our back pocket, and you took a little in-game over 4.5, and that number was plus money, and now it's minus $1.88 at DraftKings. So the Maple Leafs strike first. They get on the board, and once again, it was Austin Matthews on the power play. Minute 10 to go in the period, and the Maple Leafs head into the intermission up 1-0 and minus 270 now on the money line. So let me ask you this. As you talked about it a bit, is it too early to look at the Leafs on the puck line at plus 144? Do we wait and see how this second period plays out?
Yeah, listen, if you are a Leafs backer like we are and you wanted to take a plus money stab, obviously it's much reduced than what you could have gotten before the game, but it's at plus 114 right now if you wanted to bet the Maple Leafs minus 1.5 goals. I'm more comfortable right now on the total. I think a bet that I would make, to be honest with you, is the second period, both teams to score. You can get plus 145 to plus 150 odds on that, because down 1-0, you're going to get the effort of all effort from Ottawa to come out to start the second period. I actually think we could see an early goal here in the second period. I like taking a flyer on some of these both teams to score props when we see a team trailing in the first period like this, when it's just a close game. And I like especially plus 150. It's just great to take that. So I would wait before I go in on a puck line. Let's see what the lead is going into the third period, or just play it live when you get to the 10-minute mark or so of the third period.
All right, quick update from the Twin Cities. We mentioned here at Circa. No Derek tonight because he's upstairs. He's hanging out at Stadium Swim. They've got a watch party, and they are going nuts right now at Stadium Swim because we just had a power play goal for the Vegas Golden Knights. It was I believe, a double minor on Marco Rossi as he caught Braden McNabb with a high stick. I believe he drew some blood, so it was a 4-minute penalty.
But did we score in the first part of it or no?
We did.
So we're still on the power play.
The Knights did. So 30 seconds, I believe, into that power play.
Shea Theodore.
And boom, the Golden Knights, the two road teams strike first.
Wow.
The teams trying to wrap up their respective series, and there they are. The Golden Knights make it 1-0 over the Minnesota Wild. And as you mentioned, it is Shea Theodore who has his second goal of the series, and both of them coming on the power play. So 1-0 Knights, 1-0 Maple Leafs. Live line right now in Minneapolis, minus 345 for VGK. And as you alluded to, because it happened in the first 2 minutes, still on the power play here for Vegas.
Love it. Get another one right now. By the way, you saw me bouncing back and forth. I was just like, I sing the Vegas goal song in my head every time I get the goal. So, that was just me doing a little Panic at the Disco in my head, Vegas Lights, when VGK scores, if you ever gone to a game here at T-Mobile. But this is an important 2-minute stretch here for Minnesota. They can't afford to go down 2-0. Vegas can take a stranglehold on this game if they can get another goal here on this power play. What a start, though. This is the dream start for a team on the road looking to silence a crowd for a team that in the home wild playing with desperation with their season on the line.
Just circling back, I'm going to get you an update on the NBA here, as Knicks fans are going to be happy with that update here in just a moment. But, first period unders, we talked about it last night. Unfortunately, it was my downfall in the Caps game. You were able to get there in Ottawa, and that price was, it looks like, minus 20 to the under, minus 15 here at Circa. So able to cash that first period under in Toronto, Ottawa. Obviously, if you played first period under in VGK in Minnesota, you got to sweat here the final 15 minutes as that thing closed. Looks like a pick 'em both ways on 1.5 goals in that first period.
How about the first period overs in Winnipeg?
Yep.
Every game in that series between the Jets and the Blues has gone over the first period, and every game it's been plus money on the over. Because we have two world-class goaltenders in Connor Hellebuck and Jordan Binnington, the general consensus is, well, of course it's going to be under 1.5 in the first period. The game total is 5 or 5.5, but it's gone over in every single game. So something to keep an eye on for that game coming up tomorrow. Playing over first period between Winnipeg and St. Louis.
All right, midway through the first quarter in Detroit, and it's 20-10 Knicks. A strong start here for the New York Knicks. So if you're looking to back the Pistons, or we're looking to back the Pistons, let me ask you, because you were touting it, betting in-game on these NBA playoffs has been a profitable endeavor for you. Looking at it right now, as the Knicks have come out red hot, you can currently get the Pistons at plus 6.5, as the Knicks are going to come down and bury a 3. Not liking it for our under, as they're already up to 218.5 here on this total, but 23-10. Do we expect a run here from the Pistons at some point? Are you looking to back Detroit?
I would not be looking to back Detroit. And the numbers, this kind of defies the conventional wisdom where you would think home team, they're clearly going to come back from down double digits. But here's some really intriguing data that we've done. I've done work on. One of my betting and podcast partners, Mackenzie Rivers, did a great job at this on his website. In his podcast, this season in the NBA playoffs, 75% of the teams that have won the first quarter have gone on to win the game. Now, that is higher than the playoff average. If you go back since 2002, the average is a little below 67% of teams that win the first quarter go on to win the game. But in this postseason, 75% of teams that have won the first quarter and have gone on to win the game. And how about this? This season, if you look at the teams in the playoffs that have taken a 10-point lead, those 10-point leads have turned into 25-point leads at any point in those games 13 of 44 times. That's 30%. This is the third most in the last 23 years that we've seen that happen in the NBA playoffs. 2017 and 2016 was also a high number of teams that had 10-point leads that go on to turn those 10-point leads into 25-point leads. So I know some people might be turned off by these NBA playoffs thinking there's a lot of blowouts. Well, you know what? There is a lot of blowouts. The data is showing me there is a lot of blowouts. But from a live betting perspective, I actually enjoy this because I'm fading maybe the books are going to juice the Pistons to come back, or maybe the public's just going to bet the Pistons to come back. Meanwhile, for me, I'm looking at the teams that are already up by 10, thinking that they're going to extend their leads, or even better, going with their team totals to go over, because as we've seen in these playoffs, these teams don't stop scoring.
All right, so immediate timeout right now, 28-15. Jalen Brunson off to a great start. He's got 11 points. He's 5 of 7 from the field. He's hit a 3. OG Anunoby's hit a couple of 3s. So right now, the New York Knicks, 11 of 17 from the field, Scott. Inside the arc, they're 8 of 10. So they've been very productive inside the paint, or inside the arc, I should say, with a 13-point lead. And then as for the Detroit Pistons, 6 of 14 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3. And taking a look at Cade Cunningham, he's got 4 points. So a very strong start for the New York Knicks. Live number is 6.5 in favor of the Knicks. Total up to 222.5. So much to our chagrin here, we've seen this number extend 8 points here. So
this is fine, though. Blowouts are going to lead to unders. This is the opposite of what we normally think, okay? And here's what I like right now. Prior to this game starting, the Pistons team total was 106.5. You can get it at 107.5 right now. I would go under that Pistons team total.
Under 107.5.
Yep.
All right. And just taking a look at yesterday, we were able to unearth a really good angle, and props to Will Hill for being able to hit it. Unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to bet some in-game player prop unders. It's not the same case here, right? Knicks and Pistons. The Knicks are up. The Pistons are the team that are on the verge of elimination. So the angle that we were able to cash in on does not exist here. But just taking a look at where we are from those in-game angles from a player prop standpoint as we look at, Jalen Brunson off to this great start. How about this? Over-under was 27.5 pre-flop. Out to 33.5 as he's got 11 points in the first quarter. It is juice under at minus $1.25, but he is the one that I have noted that has had the biggest jump here in this first quarter from 27.5 out to 33.5.
Under is the only way I could look. I mentioned I leaned the under prior to the game when I saw it was at 29. I didn't know that it got down to 27 or and a half or so. But Jalen Brunson, as I mentioned, has been banged up. If the Knicks continue to turn, as I look at these numbers right now, and let's say they turn this 13-point lead into a 23-point lead or a 30-point lead at some point. If this winds up being a game that's out of reach in the fourth quarter, Jalen Brunson will not play the majority of that fourth quarter. So I could only look at his under right now.
All right, quick update from Minnesota and the Wild. They were able to kill the second part of that penalty, and now the Wild are on a power play. So 1-0 VGK. Shea Theodore got the goal, but right now the Minnesota Wild on the power play. They're plus 220 on the money line. One period in the books north of the border. The Maple Leafs have a 1-0 lead over the Ottawa Senators, and a very strong start to the New York Knicks evening. They lead 28-15. It's VSiN Primetime.